Nation, what's up, guys? We are back today. We're doing a virtual podcast. Mr. Skaggs is down in Florida. How's that down there for you?
It's
The
good.
land of the free.
Yeah, it's good. It's different, honestly, from New York and
Yeah,
Connecticut. It's not, there's not like this crazy level of paranoia and whatnot. Life is a little bit more normal down here.
that's nice to hear. We're going to have to make it down there as a group. But as always, Doom Nation, thank you for coming back and listening. Joe Biden is the president. Trump's out of office. I guess we might be in an actual Doom Nation now. But yeah, so thank you guys for tuning back in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You guys know where it is. And hopefully you enjoyed today's show. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Biden's fucking inauguration and how he's already lost a ton of jobs and all these people have died from COVID under his watch.
Yeah, I definitely want to hit that I worked on in the notes. I want to hit like what are his plans for the first 100 days, the executive orders he signed already. Maybe talk a little bit about the inauguration itself and some of the things he said and what we think about it. So, I mean, I got the notes here, so you could choose what you want to start on. If you want to you want me to make my first point, or you want to make your first?
Yeah.
First
Well,
point?
as going through the notes earlier, I realized that we have a lot of the same ones. Yours is way bit more detailed. I was busy working all day. So why don't you start with one of your points that you're excited about?
So I'll start with the first point I wrote down, I guess, right? I wrote that the theme of his inauguration speech, he gave two speeches yesterday, right? And the primary theme seemed to be unity. And he mentioned like an end to the uncivil war. I actually thought that was a pretty clever term, uncivil war. It's kind of what we've been in. And he said that he'd be a president for those who did not vote for him. So it sounds, that's a nice sounding thing. It sounds like he's going to extend an olive branch to, the Trump people and people who voted for Trump. And, we could debate that after, because his 28, I believe they are, executive orders he signed.
Or just, undoing everything.
There's no such thing as an olive branch in any way. Nor are they even an olive branch to progressives or like Bernie people or anything.
I saw it today. It's completely back to business. Obama administration 2.0, where already who was sending the death threats saying that there'll be revenge for Trump? I think Iran.
There was a death threat that an Iranian TV station posted at Trump on Twitter, showing him golfing and like a B-2 bomber flying overhead, going to blow him up.
Which I said this from the start. There will be a new war under Biden within a heartbeat. He already nicked the pipeline deal. So now we have to go back to the Middle East for, expensive oil and endless wars. Now we got people talking shit, sending threats from there, and he's going to just get ready to send military back over there that Trump already took out, and we'll be in another war before you know it.
Yeah, back
real
to
unifying.
You mentioned the Keystone XL pipeline, so let's talk about that, because that's one of the things I definitely wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So what do we got on day one? What is it? 8,000 union workers lose their job. Holy shit! Good job.
That pipeline has been going on for years, back to Obama, and it was actually at the end of Obama's term that he signed off on the presidential whatever it is, giving it permission to be actually stopping it. Sorry, he signed off at the end, revoking the presidential permit or something like that. I've been actually following that story for a long time, right? And I've had two different opinions on it. On the one hand, obviously it's good. People have jobs and are working. Those are union jobs, etc. But at the same time, my beef with that pipeline was that it was being built on like Native American land. And they were given no say. It was just kind of like, fuck you guys, we're going to build this pipeline on your land. And I was pissed off about that back then.
Back to business.
To the point where I actually even there was protests and things going on there, people trying to stop, like the Native Americans trying to like stop the pipeline. I even sent them Amazon Prime, like fire starters, because they were in winter and they needed fire starters or something. It was like $10. I sent it to them for help. but the reasoning why Biden is stopping this pipeline is because he's saying it, yes, one, because of Native Americans, but two, because of it's against the green policy of, because it's going to make,
Yeah.
it's going to bring oil into the country, etc.
Yeah, and it's going to hurt the pockets of the people that, he's in bed with.
Yeah,
I get the environmental aspect of it, but where his allegiance lie, and it ain't to the American people. So.
Yeah. The funny thing is that the pipeline actually is more environmentally friendly because in reality, the gas and the oil is still going to come in anyway. But now they're going to have to drive it in on trucks that are going to burn more gas and oil in order to transport the oil down to the refineries in Texas or whatever. Yeah. A pipeline is always running, and it's not burning any fuel itself. So it's actually a little bit greener way to transport the fuel from Alaska down to Texas.
Well, that's okay, though, because now that we're in the Paris Accords again, our taxes will go up and climate change will disappear. So we don't need to worry about those extra trucks driving in that oil to the refineries. What pipeline do we need?
Yeah,
we can go all over the place. But
we could.
My thing is, though, you need to be scrutinized now. If Trump walked into office and 8,000 to 11,000 people were fired on day one, that's all anybody would be talking about. So Americans lost their job in an economic downturn. The economy is already shit because it's closed. And here you are fucking firing people, losing American jobs, just like that, day one, hour one.
If we really want it to be about unity, how come we couldn't have a meet in the middle, right? Why couldn't they continue the pipeline, but move it off the Native American land, change the planning of it to some other way, And they're ignoring the fact that it's actually beneficial technically to the environment to transport fuel that way, because we're not going to just snap our fingers and oil and whatnot is going to vanish overnight. We're still going to need it for cars. We could let the pipeline keep running and at the same time try and make greener technology for cars and things like that. Why can't you have both at the same time? That's how you make
of course.
Doing both.
Yeah. Everybody gets a little bit of what they want, but I really feel we're going to see that there is just nothing unifying about this administration, and I think we're going to find it out relatively quickly. You know what I mean?
The calls for unity so far have just been platitudes. You could say to your blue in the face, "I'm going to be a president for everybody." I want to, unify the whole country. But you have to actually do something that would unify people. If you just say it over and over and over again on TV, that's not going to just magically unify. Most people are not even smart enough to look into what you're doing. To unify them anyway. They're just seeing you talk on TV. I don't get it. It's
Well, that's going to be the beautiful part about the Biden administration. So there was that guy on Joe Rogan a while back that we've mentioned who was talking about how corporations and CEOs, they don't give a shit if they have to send their employees to a sexual harassment class or an anti-homophobic class or something. They're just checking boxes off of these little microaggressions. It's Gay Pride Month, so on Twitter and Instagram they changed their Facebook logo to say they're pro LGBTQ, whatever, and everybody loves them for it. You know what I mean? They're not doing anything for the community or the organization. They're just saying, hey, look at me, I'm woke. This is what's going to go on for the Biden administration. They're going to say something like, oh, it's not environmentally friendly. There's Native American. We got to protect the Native Americans. And we're going to check off that little microaggression box of protecting Native Americans. But gas prices are going to go up and a war is going to start in the Middle East over gas yet again. And we're going to send troops and billions of dollars over there. Everybody wins because, like you said, nobody's going to check this type of shit because it's just check marks these little, I feel better that the Native Americans are taken care of now. We're not going to research what happened, just,
Yeah. And then when you think about it, who's going to have to pay for that gas? Native Americans, they have to buy gasoline for their cars. They're already demographically a very poor community, so it's going to impact them in a bad way.
Yeah. And how many of them do you think were working on that pipeline too?
I'm not sure of that, but
I'm sure if it's in their territory, I'm sure some of them were working for the company.
Maybe, could be, but there could have been a compromise. I 100% agree it shouldn't have been built on their land, especially if they considered it sacred, and whatnot. But some sort of compromise could have been made. That guy you were talking about before, that's actually Dave Smith. He's a comedian. He was the I was telling you about his podcast. It's really good. It's
Oh
called
yeah, the
Part of the Problem with Dave
yeah.
Smith. It's very good.
I started the beginning of that, and then life took
Yeah,
over. So
I hear you. I hear
yeah,
you. I've been listening to that, so that's a good one if anybody wants to check it out. Part of the Problem with Dave Smith.
yeah. He had a really great point on the Joe Rogan podcast that it really stuck with me through and through. Still,
Yeah, he's a libertarian. So if you're familiar with what like a
yeah,
libertarian stands for, they're socially liberal but economically conservative.
yeah.
So
Small
that's,
government, all that. Yeah.
yeah, small government in all forms. So
Yes. Yeah.
don't control my healthcare. Don't tell me who I can fuck. Don't tell me who I can marry. Etc. That's the way
But
libertarians.
I'll pay to go walk in the park.
Yeah, right. They'll build private roads and pay to use per road.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing. You choose
Sure.
whatever you want to talk about.
So let's talk a little bit. I'm just going to my next one. Was Biden rejoining the WHO, the World Health Organization? There's fucking proof that the WHO is in bed with the CCP. Biden doesn't give a shit, and everything. Let me back it up a little bit. We are going to see that COVID was used as a political weapon, as far as I'm concerned. Not that it wasn't real, but the day after the election, Pfizer announced that they magically had a vaccine on November 4th. We get Biden's inaugurated. He rejoins the WHO. The WHO's now changing their methods of testing, where the PCR tests, if you are not showing symptoms and you were tested positive, they are going to retest you to make sure of any false positives. In theory now, the positive rate is going to fucking plummet. And Biden's going to be there to say, "Oh, I cured, COVID with the WHO, and look at how great these numbers." This all could have been done back last March. This all could have been from the start like this. Now we're going to start opening up the economy. Now we're going to start better testing methods. Now we're going to start working on getting the positive rates down. It was a political weapon through and through. And the fact that I don't understand how there's the fact that the WHO, we know they are in bed with the CCP, and just nobody cares. Just because it's not Trump dealing with it, nobody cares that this is a organization that is taking money from a communist organization that doesn't have our best interests, at heart.
Yeah, quite the opposite. Actually, they have our worst interests in mind.
And they're going to start doing the vaccines probably too. So the price of that's going to probably go up. It's just going to be a mess, and we can't trust anything they say now.
Yeah, I agree. It is almost comical the way coronavirus has been politicized to the point where now Cuomo is even saying, "Oh, we have to open up because if we stay closed anymore, the state's going to collapse." No shit, dumbass. It's what everybody's been fucking saying for months. But now because Trump's not president anymore, you're on board. Come on.
Yeah, 2 months ago, it wasn't safe to go vote at a polling station.
Yeah.
2 months later, now that your guy's in, open everything up. And you even made a good point too, where like Hollywood is like happy that like Biden's in office and stuff, and like you're gonna feel like they're gonna start flaunting it just so the elite could be out more. I feel like restrictions are just gonna drop.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, it's funny because one of the executive orders Biden signed, this was in your notes too, was a mandate on all federal property that you have to wear a mask. Which, first of all, that was already a rule to begin with. You name me one federal property you were stepping foot on where they weren't going to tell you to wear a mask. Number one. So number two, Biden didn't wear a mask himself multiple times. There's been videos so far.
An hour later. Insane.
In the White House, he wasn't wearing a mask when he was signing the executive orders. At the Lincoln Memorial, he and Tom Hanks were both not wearing a mask. So, I mean, why? Because you're giving a speech and you're the president. Now you have special privilege. You can break your own rule. That is exactly what it is.
That's what they're all going to be doing.
That's funny.
And that's also the other thing. This 100-day mask mandate. How much you want to bet? I would like to put a countdown on it that in 100 days, like things are back to normal. COVID's taken care of. We're all getting the vaccines. Just to make it look all goody good.
Yeah, that's one of the executive orders. It launches a 100-day masking challenge, right? And it says it's asking Americans to wear masks for 100 days, and that it requires masks and distancing in federal buildings, federal lands, government contractors, urges states and local governments to do the same. It's funny because he's just asking you to wear a mask. He has no authority. He literally signed an executive order asking people to do something. You know what I mean? Like he's not he doesn't have any legal basis to make it mandatory you do something. He's signing a law that asks people to do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
And how many
Because
people
why did he have to?
Yeah.
Why did he have to sign an executive order for it? He could just
it's all fluff pieces. It's all fluff pieces. That's all it's just going to all be feel good stories. And because masks are popular to talk about. And I'm still curious. I think it's just because I'm sheltered in the tri-state area. I'm sure, and Florida's open, so you're not really seeing the difference. But I would like to go like Midwest and see who's not wearing a mask. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm sure like there's tons of people in California. Everywhere I go in Connecticut and New York and New Jersey, people are wearing masks. I'm still looking for the people not wearing masks. And the video of one guy in a fucking Walmart in the middle of Colorado or some shit does not signify that Americans are not wearing masks. It just shows that one idiot is being crazy in a fucking Walmart. I need more proof that like people flat out aren't wearing masks where they should be. Like Florida is a different example because the governor's saying everything's open. You know what I mean? Do you still have to wear masks around there?
So there's a misconception, right, that nobody in Florida is wearing masks. It's not true.
So
it's not. It's not a government mandated rule, I guess you could say, but almost every single store, actually every single store I've been in, has mandated you have to put a mask on. Like the store makes its own rule that you have to wear a mask. But people are applying it with common sense here. It seems if I'm out at the beach by myself outside, they're not wearing a mask.
Yeah.
And every business is open. There was, however, I'd say I went to a bar the other day that was completely out of control. There was like 1 million people in there. Most of them were young, not wearing masks, etc. Even I thought that was pretty crazy. But at the same time, you want to take that risk. That's on you.
That's what
go in there. That's kind of the way they're treating it. It wasn't like there was any elderly in this bar partying with these people. Yeah.
But I mean, okay, so that's a great example that like a state like Florida that has its businesses open and things are back to normal over there, people are still wearing masks. I want to find this information of where these people aren't wearing masks. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to show the proof somewhere, because I think across the board, a lot of people are wearing masks. And now Biden's just making it like a topic, almost an executive order topic.
Yeah, it's virtue signaling, really, but it's fine. It's fine. Like I said, you didn't have to sign an executive order asking people to do it. You could just continue to remind people wearing a mask is safe. Wearing a mask is safe. You don't need to make some executive order about it.
And if you notice, everything on Biden's fucking agenda for COVID is stuff that's already in the works. There's nothing new that he has added to this.
I did there. Okay, so there's a lot more shit that came out. I'm not sure if you even saw it because you had work and stuff.
No.
But like I was saying before,
is that this whole highlighted part?
Yeah, I highlighted a couple of things.
Yeah.
I definitely do recommend, if anybody's listening, to go on. CNN on their website has a full list of all the 28 executive orders Biden signed. It'd be hard for me and you to discuss every single one. We'll be here for 5 hours. But if you want to see them, go on CNN's website. They actually have it listed. That was really the only clear place I could find all of them listed in one organized area. One thing I did think was actually probably really smart was one of the executive orders he signed today directs FEMA to create federally supported community vaccination centers. I mean, if you're really trying to vaccinate as many people as possible, you should be using every resource possible that the government has.
Is that what they're doing at Yankee Stadium?
I'm not sure if Yankee Stadium and Citi Field are. That might be like a New York City thing. But it seems like from, once the vaccinations come out, most of the vaccination plan or distribution plan has been up to the states themselves to figure it out. So I do think
shocking New York is failing at that.
Yeah, they have been. But it makes sense to, if this is such a threat, if we need to get as many people vaccinated as possible, get the military involved, get FEMA involved, get every single person that's qualified to stick you with a fucking needle, stick you with a needle.
That I understand. I'm not against that at all. I do see here his the $1.9 trillion COVID stimulus bill.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about in this podcast specifically because me and you were saying how I want to talk about what Biden's first 100-day goals are.
Yeah.
And then me and you could come back to this after the 100 days are up. We can
see what
review
happens.
it,
Yeah.
come back to this episode. So
that's if it's not, President Kamala Harris in 100 days.
That's true. That's true. But, for the sake of it, let's say that it's both of their goals at the moment, right? What's funny is that it's been hard for me to find a lot of goals for the first 100 days. I kind of wrote down the major three, but it seems like all the executive orders he already signed are things he's saying are goals for his first 100 days.
Yeah.
So, okay, you signed a piece of paper and made a rule. It's good, I guess, for you, but at the same time, is that really like 100-day goal? You just
Fluff
in one day,
pieces, baby. Fluff pieces. If he has 5 goals and he accomplishes those 5 goals in 100 days, who's better than him? I delivered on all my promises, all 5 promises I gave you. You know what I mean? Like, it's all fluff to me. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're setting yourself up. You're giving yourself a layup.
Yeah.
You know what
I mean, when you're playing a video game and you set it on easy and you just trash right through the levels and shit, like you're setting yourself up.
Yeah. So let's talk about at least that I wrote down here. There's 3 things that are 100-day goals that are not necessarily, it's not possible, I guess you could say, to write an executive order that would just make it occur, right? And the first one is what you were saying before, is passing the $1.9 trillion COVID stimulus bill through Congress. I wrote some little notes. That would include $20 billion to accelerate vaccine distribution, a $15 an hour minimum wage increase, extension of supplemental unemployment benefits through the end of September, a one-time $1,400 stimulus check, and a temporary expansion of the earned income tax credit, etc. That's pretty good, right? I also read that out of that 1.9 trillion, 1 trillion would be going directly to individuals and families this time, as opposed to the last bill.
The last one.
Like, what did we say was like, 70-something% of it was going towards special interest. Yeah, we got 30%. So this one, at least more than half would be going to us. That'll be another episode to criticize the nickel and dime it, but.
Well, that was going to be my next thing, because so $1 trillion are going to people, but there's 9 billion. 900 billion.
900 billion.
Yeah.
Isn't that an insane amount of money?
Yes.
Woo! $2 trillion.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Where is that going? Because that's going to go right to more special interest groups and fucking gender programs in Pakistan. I still don't see how a stimulus bill to help the American economy you have any right to put money for foreign nations in a stimulus bill for America. Yeah.
You know what?
It's a stimulus bill for the world.
Yeah. That's funny. Let me use that to talk about something I thought was crazy that I saw in the past couple of days, and that's the Mexico City policy.
Oh yeah, you mentioned that to me.
So if anybody's not familiar with what the Mexico City policy is, I'm going to bring it up here real quick. And this really is a policy that was first established by President Reagan in '84. It's called the Mexico City policy because he announced it in Mexico City, and it requires that foreign groups receiving family planning aid from the United States government agree to not provide or promote abortions. So what it's saying is, if we're giving the country money for family planning, they can't use American taxpayer money for abortions. Trump put that rule back in place. And what's funny is that this rule has been enacted and rescinded multiple times. Basically, every time a Republican or Democrat took over, since Reagan, the Democrat would rescind it, the Republican would reenact it. So the stat I have here, which is funny, it's like this policy has been in effect for 19 of the past 34 years. They've just been playing ping pong back and forth with this rule.
Isn't that pathetic?
Yeah.
First off, we're paying for abortion overseas,
right?
Which is ridiculous.
Yeah. Let me make why this is even more ridiculous. Right? I'm pro-choice. Right? I think
so am I.
wants to get an abortion should have the right to. It's not me or Donald Trump's right to say you can or can't get an abortion.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
But why are my taxpayer monies going to go to Mexico City to fund women or people, etc., in Mexico City getting an abortion? God bless. If they want to go get an abortion, that's their right. But why is American taxpayer money going to fund abortions for people abroad?
Yeah, I want that money back. I mean, yeah.
What? Why is that a thing? Why is that a thing?
Yeah. Why aren't their own countries funding this? Or, like how bad does your country have to be that you need to like bring in money to kill babies? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it sounds diabolical. It's like American taxpayers are paying people to kill babies. That's not what it really is, but that's kind of what it is in some way. I hate to put it that way, but I just don't want my taxpayer money being wasted on other countries' citizens' stuff.
Yeah.
We have our own problems here. We have our own debt here.
Imagine that we're in debt. We're in debt, and every American has a credit score. But America is so in debt that they could actually give money to other countries to kill babies.
Yeah, printing money to give it away. It's insane.
At our cost, and we have to pay for it.
Yeah, that's the most outrageous thing, honestly, I heard. So that's still actually, there hasn't been an executive order about that. So that's still apparently up in the air. One of the reporters asked Biden's for the Mexico City policy. He hasn't. That's yet. It's only been 2 days, right? He hasn't signed the order rescinding the Mexico City policy or whatever it is. So one of the reporters actually asked about that, and Biden's press secretary said something that he is Catholic and he holds Catholic views or something like that. But I feel like a couple days later they'll probably rescind it.
Yeah. Once nobody's looking and the media doesn't cover it, they'll change it.
Yeah, let's talk about outside of the executive orders, the other two 100-day goals, right?
This is
the second. Go ahead. You want to see the second one?
Get 100 million vaccines into people.
Yeah. Okay, that's actually a good 100-day goal, right? That's not something you could just sign an executive order for because that's something like people have to do.
The only thing I see the way that go, and the military is going to have to get involved. A small part of me still believes that like there's such trouble getting people vaccinated is because I think a lot of people aren't going to get vaccinated or are really waiting till the end or waiting to see what happens. I don't think as many people are as gung-ho to get vaccinated as they would have you believe. You know what I mean? But it's not a terrible goal. I mean, if this is, all legit and stuff, that's my own, opinions. But I think just allowing the states to do it, you're not going to reach that goal.
Yeah. What's funny, my criticism of this will be, I was really trying to do some math on this, right? And see if the 100 million vaccines in 100 days is actually any sort of accomplishment, or if we just didn't change anything.
Right.
Have reached that regardless. Like say we just stay business as usual, the way we've been vaccinating people.
Yeah, would we reach 100
million in 100 days anyway? And boy, it was hard for me to find any conclusive data about like the rate of how many people were being vaccinated and whatnot. I kind of did my own math, and I took like numbers of how many people were vaccinated so far, and then divided it by how many days have passed since the vaccine came out. And it ended up being like 1 million people per day. So, or something like that, which is, that would be 100 million people in 100 days if we continued at this rate right now. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. I'm not a mathematician. I don't know if I have the exact, but one of the reporters even actually brought that up. They were like, isn't that goal kind of shooting for normalcy in a way? So I don't know. It's a good goal, I guess. That's, that's like 1/3 of the population of the country. Although they say you have to get 2 rounds of the vaccine, right? So
does that make it 200 million?
No, it's only 100 million, right? So that'd only really be 50 million people vaccinated.
See, okay. So now when you bring it to that point that it's only 50 million people vaccinated, that to me is just another layup victory for him. It's not, you know what I mean? Like,
well, he didn't say 100 million people vaccinated. He said 100 million vaccines into people. You know what I'm
So
saying?
just one guy getting.
Yeah, they could vaccinate one guy 100 million times. You know what I mean?
Just
Yeah.
look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow guy when he's done.
You know what's one thing I noticed being in Florida is the elderly population here. People are super nice down here, right? And they'll just strike up a conversation with you out of nowhere at any time. Most of them are like excited and anxious to get the vaccine. They want to get it and get life back to normal. They're all like, "Oh, did you get your shot yet? You know, are you online to get your shot?" They keep saying they call it your shot. Did you get your shot yet? But they're hyped to get the vaccine. Most of the elderly down here.
I could kind of understand that. Most of the elderly who move to Florida are down there for the beautiful weather all year long and for the lifestyle, and they're down there enjoying their golden years. And if at that age where if this vaccine is going to give you cancer or not at 75, 70, who gives a shit? They're down there. Yeah. So if they don't care what the long-term effect of this is going to be. If this is what I got to do to live my life that I came down here for, it makes sense for the elderly to be excited for it.
Yeah, it does. What do they got to lose? To be honest, it's worth a shot. Someone asked me,
people like us who don't have kids yet, it's we don't know the long-term effects.
Right. And at the same time, somebody asked me, "Am I going to get it?" And I was like, "No. Why should I get it? I already had coronavirus, so I maybe have some sort of antibody resistance to it." It's been proven basically that it's extremely rare to be reinfected again. And if I go get it, it's taking one vaccine away from an old person that really wants to get it. So why would I go do it? It'd be selfish in a way.
I don't even look at it that way. Listen, if I was to get the vaccine and I didn't have to wear a mask anymore and I didn't have to socially distance anymore and I could just go back to doing what I was doing, I would consider the vaccine. But nothing is changing. If the state doesn't open up and there's still a mask mandate and you still got to socially distance, I don't see a reason to get the vaccine now. You know what I mean? When it gets to the point where you want to go back to normal life, you got to get vaccinated. That's when I start to see the value in getting myself vaccinated. Before then, I'm not going to risk it. Didn't like 26 people in Norway die or something? And
I don't know. I saw that, but I didn't look into it. So I don't want to speculate.
And I think like 30,000 vaccine kits were recalled in California as well. It's starting to look a little bit messy. I don't know.
Yeah, that's another one of my things that I'm worried about with it is it's brand new. And like I've said before, I don't buy the Xbox Series X because it's brand new or whatever. Because when you buy something that's brand new, it's untested, there's always something wrong. It overheats and gets the red rings of death. Same thing goes for a vaccine. Do I know if it works or not? I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I have no fucking idea. But I'm not going to buy something that I necessarily don't need. Right? Do I need an Xbox Series 1X right now? No. Why? Because there's no games for it. Particular, right? Do I need the coronavirus vaccine right now? No. Because there's no need for me, no benefit for me to get it right now, right? I've already had it. I'm good for the most part. I'll take the risk.
I really need to get the antibodies test because I tested negative now for like the 6th or 7th time, and I'm either immune or I fucking had it, and I have.
You should. You should get the antibodies test just to see. And if everybody wants to cry that I'm in Florida, when I come back, I am going to go for a test before I come see you again and etc. to make sure that I'm good.
And you got tested before you went down there,
Yeah.
I said it to somebody the other day. They were like, "Oh, your friend went to Florida." I was like, "Yeah, he's chosen not to let this run his life. He wants to do things people are literally out there and forget that they have a choice still. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I took precautions on the plane. Let's talk about the plane because the plane was funny. On the plane, I wore an N95, right? Because it's been shown that that's the only mask that will really stop the COVID particles from passing through because like the fibers and
is that the blue one or is that the
no, it's just like a white mask. It says N95 on it. And like the weave is so tight or the way it's manufactured, it could actually stop the microscopic COVID particle from getting through, as opposed to like a regular mask can't 100% stop every single COVID particle. So like the N95 is basically the best mask. So I wore that for the plane. But when I get on the plane, there's no space in between you and every other person. It's the plane was full. Every single seat was taken. Yeah. And getting on, they say that there's going to be no meals, no drink or anything because of COVID. And, half an hour into the flight, they're rolling down the aisle with the beverage cart and the snacks. And they gave you a snack and people are pulling off their mask and eating the snack right on the plane. So me, who's been critical of everything, I'm like, this is pretty stupid. I'm like, why I could do without the snacks for a 2 hour flight to Florida
Yeah.
during this time. Like we could maybe forget about that for now. I don't understand why they said it. There is nothing, but then they gave you something anyway.
And then once again, how dangerous is this all if you have to socially distance in the airport, socially distance getting onto the plane, then everybody cram onto the plane, but then if you have food or drink or if the beverage car comes down, you can take it. It's just like when I got annoyed at Whole Foods, I waited outside in the cold for 15 minutes to only walk in and see people touching all the produce. You're not protecting anyone from anything at all,
Right.
you know? It,
Right.
it gets ridiculous.
They say that the planes have HEPA air filters that will filter out the COVID. But at the same time, if the passenger sitting right next to me is breathing out COVID infected air right into
Yeah.
directly into me, what the fuck is a HEPA air filter going to do? It didn't have time to get into the filter, be filtered out, and be recycled back to me.
It's just security. Remember when you were a kid and you hid under your blanket because you thought that was going to stop the psycho killer, clown in your house?
Yes.
It's just
I still do that.
Yeah, it's just a security blanket at this point.
Yep.
So the next point we got here is this reopen most K through 8 schools?
Yes. This is the last 100-day goal.
I didn't hear any of this, so please go in.
So, I mean, it's simple. Biden says that within the 100 days, his goal is to reopen schools everywhere in the country safely. All right. These things, I feel good about some of them, right? Because it seems like, like Cuomo coming out and saying things need to open back up, and Biden saying schools need to be opening back up. Yeah, I agree with them, right? So I feel good as if in terms of like we're heading in the right direction where we're going to open things back up, right? But at the same time, it's because they hoodwinked us into closing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm excited that, it seems like life in the next 6 months are going to go back to normal, but did they necessarily need, there was also a study that came out recently that Newsweek posted proving that the lockdowns were basically totally ineffective at spreading the virus whatsoever.
Yeah.
They were not
the headlines for that.
Yeah, compared to like voluntary measures, people being responsible, etc. The lockdowns had no benefit whatsoever.
It was a political weapon, and now that the mean orange man is out of office, we could go back to normal. It's kind of like like when you take your dog to like a dog park and you let it off the leash and you can't trust what it's going to do, so you keep him on the leash. Basically, right now that Trump's gone, we're kind of finally going to be allowed to. The leash is either going to be extended or we're going to be allowed off the leash finally. Right. We've been held, literally, America, its economy, and the people, as far as I'm concerned, were held prisoner over COVID, over a political warfare, biological political warfare.
It's possible, for right now, we can still say that, in a few months, it might be illegal. We might get banned for saying
I think the FBI just rolled up to the front of my house.
So, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a good thing. Kids need to get back in school first. They're not learning. And I feel like this generation of kids is going to have a major hole in their education from missing 2 years of school. Like 2 years of shitty school. It's going to make for a generation of, let's put it nicely, less smart people.
Yeah.
We don't need that to begin with.
I always said, I don't understand. I get the concern of, not wanting to get your kid sick or your kid not bringing home any, germs or anything like that. But the fact that we've been okay for 2 years now, 2 school years now, with kids getting subpar education blows my fucking mind. If you look at like the world, like where American students fall in on like math grades and shit compared to like kids in Japan and China and stuff like that, like we're at the bottom of the barrel, and now we just missed out on 2 years. And you remember being back in high school and in if I was in high school during this, I'd be fucking off the entire time. I would be looking at the screen, but I'd be playing video games the entire time. I've talked to so many teachers. You can't even hold these kids responsible, because what do? Then you go to their parents and they go, oh, well, the kid's in front of the computer, but like the parents don't give a shit. They're only sending these kids to school so they don't need to watch them. You know what I mean? Nothing is getting done. The only kids that are putting in actual work are people in college who are like, shit, if I don't study and get a good grade in this class, I'm not going to graduate and get a job. But in high school and grammar school, you ain't thinking about that.
Yeah, kids are probably like Cartman in the pandemic special episode.
Yeah.
You know, Cartman figured out a way on his Zoom class to put a picture, fake like he was losing his connection, and then put a picture of him frozen on the screen so he could get out of class every day. And he did that every day. You know, it's funny. It's South Park, but that's probably what a lot of kids are doing. They're figuring out ways to fuck around.
These kids are smarter in ways of deception than actual like math and English and science and shit.
Maybe they'll make for good secret agents one day. And
maybe. So you want to talk a little bit about you want to keep going about some of this stuff, or do you want to talk a little bit about the inauguration, or?
Yeah, let's hit a couple other things on the list here.
Go for it.
One thing I never really looked into much is Biden signed an executive order that requires non-citizens to be included in the census and for the apportionment of congressional representatives. So if anybody's not aware, the reason why we do a census is because it counts how many people are in the country. And then based on the count, that's how they determine how many congressmen each state has, and et cetera. So this is a really interesting topic to debate, right? Should illegal, people or non-citizens, if someone's here illegally, should they count towards determining how many congressional representatives an area has?
Nope.
I knew you were going to say no. Obviously.
I will take this one to the grave. Nope. Fuck that shit. Look, you take someplace like California, you make it a sanctuary city, illegals flock there. They're flocking there because of these democratic ways. Now they get counted in the census. Now they inflate the numbers of people who can't vote for these representatives to begin with. But the people who can vote now get more representatives,
right?
And then it fucks the entire system up. These people are being counted, but they can't vote for the representatives.
Yeah, I get it. It's weird. It does seem as if they're trying to import more people to gain more of a majority or something. You know what I mean? It is weird. I understand the point of the census, but you're right. Why are people who are not able to vote being represented by more members in Congress? They couldn't vote for those members. It's just what
type of representation is that?
Yeah, right.
I think me and you pay taxes, and we have representatives in our states. They don't have a state. They don't have representatives, but they're going to be accounted for how many representatives that state gets now.
Yeah, it's weird. They do pay taxes, though. I'm friends with some illegal aliens or whatever you want to call them, and they do pay taxes. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but yeah. Very weird, man. Very weird. It's like political gamesmanship in a way.
It's all that's all the corruption and the ploy to stay in power and stuff, and it's easy because you see the Democrats do it with, black communities, and they do it with, any type of communities that they could get one over on. They give the illegals and, all this freedom, and they, you know what I mean? So they could push their agenda further. They have more backing now, when in reality, they don't actually have any backing. I get it. I don't know. It's a weird way to explain it, but it's almost like putting fake money into your bank account. You know what I mean? Look at my bank account. It's $10 million, but you really only have $1 million in there. Still can't go buy a $10 million house.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's definitely weird.
I don't like it at all. I will always be against that.
And then at the same time, we could talk about the other executive order. It halts the construction of the border wall, terminating the national emergency declaration used to fund it. I always thought that the wall was a stupid idea, right? Just practically, a physical wall in 2021 is not going to stop the tide of illegal immigration. There's other ways people could come in. They could go over the wall. I've seen videos of them cutting holes in the wall and going through. But at the same time, it seems, for Biden wanting to talk about unity and et cetera, everything we've basically spoken of so far has been liberal, left, Democrat points of view.
The Democratic agenda.
If you wanted to talk about unity, all right, you want to get rid of the wall, the physical wall, or make it so that there's no more wall being built. Border security is something that's important to like Texans, Republicans in the South. Throw them a bone. Say, all right, we're not going to build the wall anymore because that's a dumbass idea, but we'll make sure that the border patrol and actual methods of preventing illegals from crossing the border will be enforced, or we'll make sure that that's funded properly. It's just it's all empty platitudes, dude. It's just I'm going to unify everybody, but I'm going to do everything that I want and nothing that you want.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't even agree with like some of these Republican ideas, but I'm just trying, for argument's sake.
Yeah, because there's nothing unifying.
Right.
There's nothing unifying about them.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make any sense.
So go on.
No, go ahead.
So this was always my problem from the start with the idea of the wall. So beautiful sound.
Yeah.
Is that one of those Florida beers?
Yes, it is actually. I'll show it off as a camera. So Funky Buddha, I actually made a doomed review that'll be coming out on Monday.
Nice.
So keep an eye out for that. It's a good beer.
But so this was always my issue with the wall. I thought in theory, I think it's a good idea. It did cut down on illegal immigration. My main issue with the wall was exactly what is taking place now. Our taxpayer money went into building the wall. And I said the first Democratic president we get, they're going to halt the wall or take it down. So now we're going to end up paying for the wall to go partially up, and now we're going to pay for the wall to come down. And then if Biden only has one term, the next Republican president is going to start we're going to be forever paying for this wall to be finished, for it only to be taken down with the next Democratic president. It's just going to be, the wall is going to be one of these tit for tat things. You know, I mean, you said it yesterday with all this unilateral power and shit, that they could just, the next president's going to come in and overturn everything Biden did, and the next president after that's going to overturn everything they did. This wall, at the end of the day, minus its function and its utility for what it was built for, is a waste of time and money. I said this from the start because I knew the first Democrat that got into office was going to end this thing.
Yeah, so I don't think. Yeah, I don't know if at least I haven't seen that they're gonna like tear down what was built already.
Right.
Like you're saying, but you're right. You know, like
that money's wasted now. We're not even gonna finish the project.
Well, no, I mean the part of the wall that's up is gonna stay up. So theoretically that part of the wall will still remain and deter people or whatever. And they'll cancel the rest of the funds and put it somewhere else. But like
ending more jobs. Good job, Joe Biden.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? I guess the wall is a big construction project. But like we were saying before, even with the Mexico City thing, like the presidents are just playing ping pong and just, when I'm in charge, I'm going to erase, because when Trump became president, he undid everything Obama did. Now Biden becomes president and he's going to undo everything Trump did. People on either side are going to cheer. Yes, good, because what the other guy did was evil. But at the end of the day, why the president has too much like unilateral power? It's not the way it was meant to be. That I could be the president, sign an order for this, that, whatever. The president is and Congress, they're supposed to come together and bargain and represent our views and work it out. And you get something here, and I get something here. No, instead, every 4 years we have no consistency. It's just ping pong. I win, you win. I win, you win.
How can you exactly, like, how can you even consider like we're making progress if we're just undoing everything? Like you go and build a shed, but you use nails. So I come in now that I own the house and I take apart the shed and I use screws. And then the next person that comes in, takes it apart and uses something else. What is gotten accomplished now? You know what I mean? It's just,
I'm building a shed and it's going to take me, 10 years to build it. And, after 4 years, my funding for the shed gets pulled. So now I have, a fourth of a shed. Now, 10 years later, another guy who wants to keep building the shed comes in. He completes another, half of it. It takes you 50 years to build a fucking shed. Yeah. It's inefficiency. Government is broken. It can't get anything done. If you agree with that thing or not, even the things you agree with, they can't get them done because the other side will come undo them before it's able to be completed.
The wall could have completely been left alone. It's like I said, you're going to see a lot of those little microaggression check boxes going off. You know what I mean? Oh, the wall is racist. Oh, the wall, we want immigrants coming in. We don't want to close our borders. That seems mean. That seems bad. So let's check that little microaggression box off, and just wasted all this time and money that went into the wall.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, are there any? There's so many of these. I can't believe
I
how many
know.
executives. I wonder if that's a record. I didn't look that up. But 28 in 2 days. So, I mean, we can talk about any other ones, or if you want to talk about any other things. There's obviously censorship, which is I'm still worried about. I will give Biden credit. There was some congresswoman
Oh
or
yeah, right
something.
away. Yeah.
Right away, some congresswoman was calling to basically get like to basically censor Fox News, OANN, whatever, and Newsmax, like those conservative points of view, saying that they spread misinformation, this and that, and so. And even Biden was like, "It's nonsense. I'm not doing that." You
Yeah.
can't just. What I wanted to talk about, let's talk about it. I wrote that if we have enough time to talk about this, was what AOC said the other day, and it scared the fuck out of me, right? Because AOC was doing a live Instagram feed, and let me bring it up here. I actually had it here. So AOC said that I can say that there's absolutely a commission being discussed, but it seems to be more investigatory in style than rather than truth and reconciliation. So I think it's an interesting concept for us to explore, and I do think that several members of Congress in some of my discussions have brought up media literacy, because that is part of what happened here. She's talking about the Capitol riots. And we're going to have to figure out how we rein in our media environment so you can't just spew disinformation and information. So what scares the fuck out of me about that is she's talking about a media literacy initiative. Tell me how that's not a fancy word for re-education camp,
Yeah.
which we've
Yeah.
heard of in Nazi Germany,
I'll be shipped
communist
off, man.
Russia, and I truly believe, for the most part, right? AOC means well. She thinks she's talking about that there was these bad people, and we need to stop them from being able to say these bad things, which causes people to cause violence and whatnot. Here's the problem: is she's saying you can't just spew disinformation and misinformation. Who's going to decide what is disinformation and misinformation? Who's going to decide
Whatever
that?
agrees.
You, AOC,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Exactly.
who's the arbiter of truth? AOC. So, okay, maybe she, in that scenario, she gets her way. She will be the arbiter of truth, right?
Yeah.
So now, based on AOC's version of morality and what she thinks is right, she could determine anything anybody says is wrong or right.
Yeah.
So right now she's talking about white nationalists and people causing violence at the Capitol. But then who's to say she won't change her mind later? And if I say defund the police is wrong, oh, you can't say that. That's against my. You know what I mean? So I can't criticize anything in the. Even if I agree with those things, like I agree with some of her ideas, but you can't just.
Yeah.
Even if I agree with some of these ideas, right? I would never tell somebody you have to listen to my ideas, and I'm going to pick and choose what's right and what's wrong, or what you can and can't say.
It just comes back to don't question the agenda. Anything that goes against the agenda, which is pretty clear now, will be considered hate speech, will be considered disinformation. It's one-minded thinking. It's all propaganda. Look, okay, Twitter, Mark Zuckerberg and Jack Dorsey are the arbiters of truth on fucking social media. So Twitter banned Trump for telling his supporters to go home. Yet there is a case right now on Twitter about child porn that they won't remove because it doesn't violate any fucking doesn't violate any of the Twitter codes of conduct. And like what you posted today on our Instagram stories of Iran threatening Trump, saying and allowing this to be on Twitter. This isn't inciting violence. This isn't saying you're trying to kill someone or attack someone or start a war. It's exactly that. Since he's the arbiter of truth and that doesn't go against his agenda, but Trump, everything he does goes against his agenda, you're banned, you're censored. We got to go after you. That shit is only gonna get worse. There's a new thing today. Did you hear what happened with Parler?
I think so, but go ahead.
With Russia?
Yes.
Oh man,
I think I posted something about that. Maybe.
Maybe. So everybody knows Parler was the new Republican social media hotspot. And then when Twitter and Facebook started changing their codes of conduct and censoring Trump, and knocking out conservative pages. Parler said, we're not going to do that. So, the whole thing with, oh, how can Twitter do this, was we're a private company. If you don't like what we're doing, go to someone else. Parler was created. They were someone else. So now the internet providers of Google and Amazon said, oh, if you're not going to fucking, work with Twitter and Facebook, we're going to make sure we shut you down and you can't get downloaded. Super fucked up and huge censorship. So now Parler is looking for other ways to run their application. So they picked a stupid move. I don't know what other options were on the table, but they picked some operating base out of Russia. And now the same people who demanded Parler be censored and who attacked Parler because they don't abide by their code of conduct and they had to go somewhere else. They pushed you out of the App Store, off the internet. You finally found somewhere else to go, and it's Russia. Now we need to investigate you guys for ties with Russia.
Yeah, it's creating your own layups. It's literally what it is. You're 100% right. They were even trying to spin. I think the guy who owns Parler, I think the guy who owns Parler, maybe, or something like that, his wife is Russian, so they're saying maybe he has some ties to Russian spies. And the thing I posted is like, so now you can't even be married to a person of Russian descent. For us to, isn't that racism when you think about it, right? Like, because you're married to a Russian, we have to investigate you. That's what they did to the Japanese people back in World War II when they put them in the internment camps. You're Japanese, we have to lock you up. It's a similar premise.
It's insanity, and it's only going to get worse. The censorship is definitely going to be a topic we're going to have to do a whole episode on.
Oh, yeah.
But it's probably going to end up getting us censored.
I was thinking of we'll see, right? But I was thinking for the censorship episode, we should do it in more of a debate style and have on someone who's completely for what's been happening with all this stuff. And I want to hear the rationalization of someone who's been for getting rid of Parler and Twitter, like banning Trump, because they're on there. I see them on Twitter all the time, people cheering, and they're so excited. I want to get someone in the room with us who we're going to diametrically oppose on this issue, and I want to hear them. I want to hear their rationale.
We'll have to have a doctor come in and diagnose them with pussy ears.
No, I'll give him a fair shake. We'll see.
I make no promises on how nice I'll be.
I know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't expect you to. Let me finish real quick on AOC. I forgot to mention before. One of the other things she said was about this whole thing regarding media literacy. She said it's one thing to have differentiating opinions, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. She continued. So that's something we're going to look into. Again, you sound right. That sounds like the nice thing to say, but who's to say what someone's saying is false or not? She wants to be.
Repeat what she said.
She goes, it's one thing to have differentiating opinions, like me and you do, but it's another thing entirely to just say things that are false. She continued. So that's something we're going to look into. So I get it, right? Me and you discuss and debate things. Sometimes you tell me crazy QAnon shit, and I'll come back at you. But I'm not here saying, I could tell you, Chris, I think this QAnon stuff is totally bullshit, right? But I'm not kicking you off the podcast, because I don't know. I don't know for certain. I could tell you, I'm pretty sure this is bullshit, but I'm not your boss. I'm not your God. I can't tell you what's right and what's wrong. I could make a suggestion. I could tell you, but I can't force you to believe what I believe. That's literally like the entire purpose of our show.
Yeah.
You say one thing, I say another thing, and I'm never going to force you to believe a certain thing. I can convince you maybe, but I'm not going to fucking write a law in the Two Doomed Men rules saying, Chris, you can't talk about QAnon anymore because it's wrong.
Right.
Who says me? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
And then when it all comes crashing down and it's real, then what do you do? But so she said differentiating opinions, but who gets to choose like
what opinion's right or wrong?
Yes, exactly. Like what they're like and to show like one side is just going to move the goalpost. You know what I mean? So we have two headbutting opinions, but if all the people who are picking and choosing, who are the curators of truth, see a side, they're going to move the goalpost for A and make things harder for the opposing opinion. It's just going to implode on itself. it is a very dangerous path
It
that they
is.
are all on. And especially for like for progressive and how everybody's opinion and everybody matters. It's quickly becoming, yeah, your opinion matters as long as it's my opinion.
Right.
The elite get to choose what the opinion is, and you get to follow.
It's funny because like liberals and progressives throughout history have always been the ones fighting against like oppression
Yeah,
and for rights and things. And now they want, in a place, America allows you to fight that fight
yeah,
legally for the most part, right? Say what you want about America, you know, in regards to slavery and being oppressive for hundreds of years, it was, but America affords you a chance to have that fight without just lobbing off everybody's heads
yeah,
and putting them on spikes.
yeah.
If you take away what they're advocating for is taking away the ability to have that fight because they want to make it legal for their mindset to be enforced. But what happens when AOC is not in charge anymore? And say AOC does get this power to determine what's right and what's wrong, and she upholds, she's everything she does is correct. She
Yeah.
applies it perfectly, like a good ruler, a good king would. But then AOC dies, and then a new king comes into power,
Yeah.
and the new king is
Goes
Trump,
apeshit
and
with it.
and it's Trump again, right? And he now uses this newfound power that AOC first, made to quell anyone who's saying Black Lives Matter or anything. And he's a real what happens if Hitler comes into power again? And now he uses his power against the liberals and the progressives who created it.
Yeah.
That's why the system we have works. You just if someone says something mean, I will call them out, or I won't listen to them, or I'll hate that person. But they have in America, you have the right to say disgusting, terrible shit. As much as it sucks, right? You do.
Yeah, that's where the Trump derangement syndrome came in. They just people solely didn't like Trump because the way he spoke physically hurt their ears. You know what I mean? Like they could not handle someone talking the way he does. And this is where it comes into like pussy ears. You know what I mean? Like you have, like you said, in America, you have this right, whether it's mean or it's whatever, you have this right to say it, and you have the right to say it the way you want to say it. I trust, I get it. There's a way of going about things, and that was one of Trump's fucking problems. But like, you can't just eliminate this. This is what a two-party system does. This is how is okay. So if this goes into effect, there's still a Republican Party. The next presidential debate comes about. You know what I'm saying? Like, so now a question gets asked, the Republican can't answer it because his point of view has now been determined false or to incite violence or whatever. But so now how do we have a debate where just one party gets to answer all the questions and the other party just has to stand there quietly and hope people vote for him?
Well, it seems like that's the goal. It seems like the Democrats are trying to seize the moment of everything that's happened, the riot, etc., to crush the opposition 100%, so that they could just win every election going forward and get their way, etc. That's literally what it seems like they're trying. They're trying to. The government, you never waste a good tragedy. You never waste a good tragedy when you're the government, right?
Yeah.
We're seeing it with 9/11. We're seeing it right now. We're seeing it with coronavirus. You use every tragedy to get your political way.
Yeah.
And if you want to go back and talk about the inauguration again, we could talk a little bit about that maybe to finish it off here.
Yeah.
I sat there. I know a lot of people are going to say, like a lot of Trump supporters, like, I'm protesting the election. I'm not going to watch it. You know what? If you don't want to,
I watched it. I was hoping everybody was going to get arrested, man. I am surprised at how little viewership there was for someone who got 80 million votes.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that could also be manipulated. I agree. Like I saw there were some things about YouTube fucking with the numbers of how many people watched, but those could be photoshopped too. Like people saying it was fucking. True. I don't know. I don't even want to waste my breath on that because who really cares at the end of the day? What I wanted to talk about was a lot of this, like a lot of Biden's rhetoric during his speeches. And
that was a long, boring speech, man.
It was. So he made a lot of moral arguments. This is going to go back into the censorship, right? Condemning white nationalism and condemning racism and everything that's bad, And I agree with those moral points of view, right? Like I agree if you're a KKK member or a Nazi, you're a piece of shit. You know, that's like a bad thing that shouldn't exist.
Right.
But
also at the same time now, the problem with this white nationalist stuff is it's not just, you know, KKK, Nazi, Aryan Brotherhood, actual white nationalists. It's anybody really who supported Trump. You know what I mean? Like they've made this nationalist thing such a broad stroke just so they can incorporate the people in it that challenge them, incorporate the people in it that they don't like. They move the goalpost on what it is.
yeah, I think it's even maybe a little bit more sinister than that. I wrote in my notes here, like, because you're not only seeing this from Biden's speech, you're seeing it from the media, the other Democrats about far right terrorism, and you know, we have to do whatever we can to stop this. It sounds like to me, just because of historical what our country and our government has always done, they found a new boogeyman, right?
Yeah.
ISIS is done.
Yeah.
Al Qaeda is done. COVID, we're gonna crush that now because, you know, Biden's in charge. He's gonna crush that. Who's gonna be the boogeyman?
Yeah.
It's gonna have to be, you know, far right
supporters.
And what are we gonna do? We're gonna launch our next war against terror, and it's gonna be right wing terrorism and domestic terrorism, whatever. That's what it sounds like to me. Although I agree, like those things are terrible, but I don't trust the government. I'm cynical of everything they do. They're always looking for a way to justify a war. And if you don't believe me, if you think what I'm saying is being speculative or I'm being fucking conspiracy theory like you sometimes are or whatever, the government has done this before, right?
This isn't a conspiracy theory if they've done it before. We are the next target. We are.
Look,
the people who will stand up to this agenda are the next target.
Let me compare the rhetoric that's going on right now to 9/11. When 9/11 happened, the government used this terrible tragedy to justify the Patriot Act, the NSA spying on everybody, creating the Department of Homeland Security,
going after Saddam because they had
invading Iraq, 30 fucking years of war, whatever it is, in Afghanistan. So please tell me how anything I just said has not been done before. It has, right? Yeah. Why would you, we talked about the NSA spying on everybody. That was illegal. And Ed Snowden, who I wanted to get fucking pardoned for what he did.
I told you anybody of importance wasn't.
We wouldn't have even known they were doing that had it not been for Edward Snowden, who's a fucking American hero, right? And now he's being punished for what he did. So please spare me the fact that I could be being speculative or it's conspiracy theory. The government has done it before. And to the point where even some of the squad, Camilla J. Paul, and even Ilhan Omar, I think, have been tweeting out and saying, we can't use what happened at the Capitol as a excuse to expand the police state and do so. That's coming from people who you probably almost always disagree with. But even they realize, like, this is dangerous. The establishment is going to now find a new boogeyman and justify more military spending, more police state actions, etc.
I already said it. Not that I'm predicting it or anything, but like, now what the media did with the Capitol riots, because Trump people, invaded the Capitol and shit. We know false flags are a real thing, right? So what would it take to do an attack on the Second Amendment, dress up some dude in head to toe MAGA gear, and set up a false flag of him going on a shooting spree in a mall or something? That would be it. That would be it. Republicans would be terrorists. We're not allowed to have guns anymore. We got to get rid of the Second Amendment, suspend the Constitution. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it would be so easy to let's say, like, I still believe the Capitol riots was a false flag, but let's say it was all Trump supporters who got riled up and stormed the Capitol. Look at what they were able to do with that crisis. They didn't let it go to waste. They could simply just make a new one. The media ain't going to tell us any difference. The FBI ain't going to fucking solve the case anytime soon. They could set it up to knock it out of the park just the way they want to.
Yeah. You never waste a good tragedy. You use them to pass your own agenda, your own personal agenda. And for people who want to say, well, the argument is we have to not let people be able to communicate that are going to incite violence and things for that. The people who went into the Capitol, they're facing the consequences, right? As they should. They're getting arrested. They're going to be prosecuted. Trump didn't pardon any of them. They're all going to be fucking prosecuted. Like, the system we have in place is working. They're being hunted down. They're going to be brought to justice. My criticism of the whole event was that the building couldn't defend itself, on the drop of a dime. So it should have never happened. I don't think it was a false flag. Could there have been some bad actors in the crowd? Definitely. But, I think it was just a bunch of angry people who thought they were going to go and solve the country's problems like they were patriots.
It was too much of a home run for the agenda.
I get it, but that doesn't mean because a couple of bad people, I'm talking about a couple thousand here, go and do one bad event, you now use it to justify taking all my rights away from everything else. I had nothing to fucking do with it. All those people are going to be punished. You punish people who do wrong shit. That's how you prevent shit from happening. I guarantee you, a lot of these guys ain't going to go storm the fucking Capitol building once they get out of jail again. They're going to learn their lesson.
Yeah, but it's not going to matter because they're just going to shift the focus and make them all look bad. And if that path doesn't work, they have a million more plan B, C, D, E. They'll find a new way to fucking make you the bad guy. You know what I mean? And get a hold of what they want.
You're right. It wouldn't take much to, like you said, plant a guy and dress him in a certain way and
get a minivan. Yeah. Get a minivan with fucking MAGA stickers all over it and explode it in the middle of, a park or something. Yeah. Nobody dies, but he's a Trump supporter. We gotta, it would be super easy.
And when it's illegal to say something like we just said, they can make it illegal to say what we just said, that they could do that. And now, nobody would hear it. Nobody would even think of it.
It's dangerous.
They're stacking the board against you in every way.
The dark winter Biden's talking about has nothing to do with COVID. It could be a dark winter real quick. Just straight communism in a heartbeat. It's scary.
It is, definitely.
But you want to wrap it up or are you good?
Yeah, I think we're good. You could
all right, man.
Wrap it up.
Sounds good. All right, Doom Nation, we are 2 days into the Biden administration. Let's see what happens throughout the rest of the week. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for showing up every week. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button, share, and subscribe all the time. You can catch us on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on social media. It's all at 2 Doom Men, and on Instagram is at 2 Doom Men _podcast. Guys, thank you as always. Skaggs, any final words?
No, thanks for listening as always. And I'm going to have another review on the beer coming out on Monday, like I said earlier.
Yep. And make sure you check out our review with our buddy Zoo on Whiskey Barrel and Flaviar, because that stuff is fire.
Yep. Goodbye.
Adios.